Hello, you've caught me standing outside of Gosh Comics in the rain because they're doing a Batman sale. Lots of vintage items, over 20,000 apparently. I would be standing over there in the queue with everyone else, but it's absolutely whittling it down. And I don't have an umbrella or a hood, and I'm tired of having a soaking wet head.
Somebody you know has a hood.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
I should have thought about it, but I didn't. I just rushed out, and I regret it.
I'm wearing a Creature Commandos hoodie and a jacket, so I have two hoods.
But I guess we'll see you when we go inside.
Yeah!
So they let us in pretty much at 10:30 on the dot. You can see they've changed the layout of the store with all of these boxes of issues of Detective Comics, Batman. There are a bunch of Batman miniseries on the left where I'm just walking over to now. Collection of trade paperbacks and magazines and books. Huge amount of stuff. Now this stuff in the upstairs section was the more modestly priced stuff, more recent things, and by recent I mean like published within the last 40 years. But they had a huge amount of stuff. People were already gravitating towards that. And just over here on the right you can see they had a stack of action figures and VHSs and DVDs, etc., assorted Batman games. But the lady mentioned to us that the high price stuff was down these stairs, which is where they usually sell the comics. And you can see here, it's a sea of middle-aged men with a couple of ladies in there too, desperately shuffling around trying to get their hands on some vintage Batman comics. And you can see the top of the wall here was lined around the entire room with the more expensive key issues. That back wall over there was full of Golden Age issues. But now that you've kind of got a sense of what the place was like, let's go back to me in the present day where I can show you what I got. Okay, I'm back home now and it's time to show you what I spent way too much money on. Remember, I am a grown man. I can spend my money how I like. Okay, so what I've got here is a copy of Detective Comics 429. Written and illustrated by Frank Robbins, creator, or I should say co-creator of Man-Bat. Now in this issue, Man-Bat seems to return in Las Vegas. Batman goes there thinking Kirk Langstrom's back on his nonsense again. Turns out it was Francine, unintentionally infected. I think she'd been bitten by a vampire bat that triggered her transformation. I think this inspired the Batman the Animated Series episode Terror in the Sky. I'm fairly certain it did, given the similarities. But that's why I bought this one. You can see along here, I think the cover's been trimmed because you can't see the full scent mark and the spine's rolled along there. But this one was relatively inexpensive, so que sera sera. Next I have Batman 258, as well as featuring a delightful Two-Face story. It is the first appearance of Arkham Asylum. Nothing really remarkable to say other than that. I have Batman number 183, yes, 183, which is the second appearance of Poison Ivy, where Batman is persuaded to stay in at night and not take his crime-fighting duties seriously because he's been hypnotized by Poison Ivy. Next we have some Detective Comics, number 325, which is a Catman appearance with his orange cape that grants him 9 lives. Along similar lines, we have Detective Comics 318, which is a team-up between Catman and Batwoman, who dresses up as Catwoman, not to be confused with Catwoman, one word, because that would sure be confusing. Along similar lines again, first appearance of Catman in Detective Comics 311. Now this one is a very tatty copy. You can see the spines, the staples are a little rusted, it's wrinkled around the spine, and presumably one of the earlier owners of this book has actually written their name on the inside, or at least there is a name written there, and I assume that he's someone that owned it at one point in time. Next, I have Detective Comics 241, featuring the Rainbow Batman, and I think this is like one of the definitive Batman Silver Age stories. When I think of Silver Age Batman, this is one that pops into my mind. You know, I must wear a different coloured Batman costume each night. So yeah, when I saw they had this one, yeah, I grabbed it. Next, another first appearance here. So this is the debut of the second Mad Hatter, the one with the fiery red hair and the hat fetish. Not at all interested in Alice in Wonderland. This is the version that appeared in the 60s TV show. I think they call him Hat Man now. I think that's what they call him, just to distinguish between the original Mad Hatter and him. But he doesn't really get used very much. Next, we have Detective Comics 259, which is the first appearance of the Calendar Man. Again, not a massively significant Batman villain, but memorable enough that it was worth picking this up. Similarly, Detective Comics 253, the first appearance of the terrible trio, Fox, Vulture and Shark. Again, synonymous with the Silver Age there, these kind of, would I call them goofy? Maybe goofy villains is fair. Next, Detective Comics number 184, the first appearance of Firefly. Now this one is from 1952, I think. And you know what? It's in pretty good condition for something that's, 70 years old, I think. Can't do the maths off the top of my head, but yeah, it's 70-something years old, nearly 75 years old. Again, it's one I saw on the wall. Funnily enough, I saw it on the wall, thought, no, I'm not going to get it. I've spent too much already. Went off. Mentioned it to Mary. Actually, I mentioned another one that was there. She said, you need to go back and get that right now. How often do you see things like this? I'm like, all right, fine. Don't have to persuade me. But the reason why I was kind of a little grumbly about spending money is because of this, the last one. Now, this was the very first comic I had them pull down off the wall. I was one of the first people in, as you saw in the video. My eyes honed in on this one straight away because I have wanted a copy of Batman number 121 from 1958 for a very long time. I saw a graded copy at a retailer I'd buy comics from, but I couldn't afford it at the time. And when I saw this, yeah, it was a lot of money, but it was kind of just about within my means. To be honest, I had planned on spending a lot less, but when I saw all of this stuff, these things that you don't see over in the UK very often, I just decided, well, I'll just eat noodles for the rest of the month, or maybe the rest of my life at this rate, because these are they're just so rare, and there just aren't very many of them in the world anymore. I mean, okay, there's thousands of them, but when you think back at the time when they were printing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of them, most of them were destroyed or just casually cast out when kids were done with them. I had gone in there with the express plan of buying 1 or 2 Golden Age Two-Face comics. But when I saw this one, I had to get it. I had to. But then that meant I couldn't afford any of the Golden Age Two-Face comics anymore. So I'm very fortunate, very blessed. Got there nice and early, got my pick of some really good stuff. I know there were people that were ahead of me that went straight into the boxes with the 70s Neil Adams Batman comics, and those were picked pretty clean. And there was one guy in there who was trying to get some of the really early World's Finest comics that were several £1,000s, and he was like, yeah, I'll have that one, yeah, I'll have that one, yeah, I'll have that one. I'm not at that level yet. May never be. But for all the frustrations we had with the weather and the public transport, it was really worthwhile. It was great. As I mentioned earlier, I think I mentioned this, it felt a little bit like a cattle market with everyone just like a bunch of middle-aged men shuffling around in this really small room trying to get our hands on ancient comic books. But yeah, it's tremendous. I never in a million years thought I would ever have this one in particular. Or most of these, frankly. There's a couple that, yeah, possible, like the Terrible Trio and Calendar Man and Catman, kind of D-list villains. But yeah, I was really enthusiastic about the event and, wanted to share it with everyone. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope it hasn't come off as being like, ooh, I'm a big shot because I bought 70-year-old comics, because that is definitely not true. I enjoy content like this, and I think some of you might enjoy this too. But you know what? If you don't enjoy it, that's cool. It's fine. Let me know. Just say, hey, don't do this anymore, and I probably won't. Conversely, if you did enjoy it, let me know. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. Take care. Bye.